Hello, hello, hello. It is John Binnie, and I am here in Edinburgh again. I've been visiting my father at the hospital here near not that far from the centre. My GPS is busy telling me to take a U-turn, but yeah, basically this is the hospital here that we're just going to turn around at this dead end at. And it was lovely seeing my father. Thank you for all your continued support, love, and best wishes. It's very kind of you. Um, he's continuing to improve. He's moved into a separate uh, ward now, and he is, he's able to talk and chat. He's sleeping. He's eating. So they're still running tests. He's had a couple of different MRI scans. Nothing conclusive yet. So we'll wait and see what what happens. Perhaps some results next week. We'll see. But really lovely, making the most of this time together. He's so. And if you're watching this, I know you sometimes follow my videos. Dad, um, but yeah, he. It's just lovely, like catching up and spending time, like quality time together. Um, and it's the amazing thing about life, right? You never stop loving, caring, um, dreaming, laughing, like while you're alive and you're able to do these things. It's it's so important to just celebrate these moments. And so I'm grateful for the moments that we have together. And it means a lot. It means a lot to me. So I am heading off to catch up with my wife, who is shopping um, in one of our like little shopping retail parks just outside of the city of Edinburgh. And so I'm driving there in the camper van. She'll have been getting the train in this morning, or actually the bus is easier to get out. She probably got the bus out and doing Christmas shopping. So that's really cool. Um, I'm grateful for her doing the Christmas shopping. Like I'm not a big shopper. Uh, I'm okay doing stuff online, but it's hard doing it online, right? Like it's in many respects it's much harder shopping for these things online. Even though I used to work for an online retailer who prides himself on making it easy, like it's still hard. Um, so yeah, I wanted to talk to you about a bit of a mix of spiritual bypassing, trauma, and shadow work. And these are mixes of themes. My dear friend Nova and I will be doing a podcast again soon, and we'd love to cover the topic of spiritual bypassing. I'd love to share some of my some of my recent experiences of it, and then also we'll be able to go into a lot more detail in the podcast together. Shadow work is a huge thing. If you've never heard of shadow work, um, I can like describe some of that as well as we get as we get through it. So I think we're being guided back down to the shore again, which is good. It's definitely a preferred route. When you It's maybe not so bad in a car, but in a camper van when you're driving around these like corners and roundabouts, you're stopping and starting and your speed's going up and down and up and down. So I definitely prefer the smooth routes. Um, yeah, let's talk about spiritual bypassing. Um, I'm going up here. That's good. So yeah, the first thing I just want to describe is this process of bypassing, and it's like a form of denial and delusion, right? Um, and you know, I've experienced it where, you know, a friend or even a loved one or, someone who knows you well says, when you describe a difficult situation you're going through. So, one big difficult situation I went through um, last summer, so 2023, the summer where I had my deepest, darkest shadow, my shadows, and I faced my inner demon of lack. It was like it was a showdown, right? It was a showdown between me and the fear of not having enough in my life. Um, and what was important about that was I needed to experience. This feels like a very different way we're going because that's the castle straight ahead. Um, yeah, I needed to go through that experience because the John that was scared of lack and was allowing that version of me that was allowing the fear to influence what I was doing. Like, my reaction to it was to do even more like healings and clearings for people, and it was almost like compulsively, if someone had a need, or if I could find someone that had a need, I would like busy, busy trying my best to help them, which is lovely in some respects. But when the motivation is lack because you feel, I used to, for instance, I would have feelings that I would somehow get out of practice if I wasn't doing it enough. Um, or I'd have a fear that if I didn't get enough practice in before I decided to do it as a career, then maybe I wouldn't be good enough. And I also wanted to see how much money I could earn, even though loads of the sessions were free. But in some respects, I'd like say to myself, but imagine if they were paid, how much money that would be. So it was just weird. Um, so yeah, I, without being too hard on myself, right? I was in a lack mindset in the summer of 2023. So I'm so glad I went through that, and I really had to face it. But I did experience at that time um, some people who would. Oh, it's going to take us through town. I don't want to go through town. It's scary. Um, I don't know where we're going to end up. I'm sure you guys get a good view. And maybe I should be going, speaking of shadows, I should be going through town because it is scary to do it scared, right? I'm not aware of any like height restrictions or restrictions on camper vans going through, so I can do this, John. You can do this. Um, and you get to see all the beautiful architecture. I Yeah, I found that some people would say to me as I initially presented these challenges to people, I said, look, like I'm burning myself out. I think the work I'm doing for people wasn't fantastic, at that time for what I hope was a short period of time, um, or as short a period of time as possible. And and some people would just react by saying, oh, maybe you just like take a week off or something, or maybe you just need to um, just focus more on the love and light aspects. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. I think I should take a longer break. Like I think there's like a kind of character reassessment, like a readjustment that I need to go through. It's bigger than this. It's bigger than just me taking a weekend or a week off. Um, so that was some of it's just the bypassing that I experienced was other people denying the size and the scale of the challenges that I was experiencing. Um, and then I think also other people don't want to necessarily admit to themselves how scary this or risky this work is that I do, right? Um, where are we going? We're heading up towards the center. Um, So sorry. Anyway, distracted by my driving routes. Driving comes first, John. Driving comes first. Talking second. Um, and yeah, it's some people that said things like, oh, maybe you just need to do a clearing. I think someone even said like you just need to like have a shower and like a salt bath. And it's like this is not something I can wash off of me. I need to do some really hard inner work. Like I need to face this inner fear I have of lack. Like it's crippling me. Um, and I think one way of describing, or there's a few different ways of describing spiritual bypassing, but one of them is that like the denial of darkness within us, right? The denial of the darkness within the shadows that exist in all of us, including me at this time, right? Um, so when you deny these, they end up getting stronger and they end up changing you and affecting you in lots of different ways. And you've heard about some of the ways it was affecting me at the time. And like fear does that to you, right? Like you can spend the rest of your life burning yourself out, avoiding your biggest fears. Like maybe you have a fear about driving through city centres in your camper van, especially now that there's the tram lines here, and they're like they're this road system changes constantly. So I never really remember it or know it. Oh, I'm such a country bumpkin. It's so funny. Um, so yeah, it's uh, it's really fascinating. Like if I denied this, for example, right now and said, "Oh, John, you don't have a fear about driving into the city center. It's just busy. Just drive a different way." Well, first of all, you guys will miss out on the lovely architecture as we drive around town, and then I would have started driving in some route that I didn't even really know where it was going, and probably taken a lot longer. And you just, I waste fuel, I waste energy, I probably get a bit stressed going the wrong way, and yeah, I think it's really helpful to understand these signs. It seems, oh, I can go left now. Bikes could go left initially. I must remember bicycles because you just don't really get many. Um, I hope this is the way. I think so. It's left lane. So think bike, John. And there's the playhouse on the right hand side. So I also used to live in Edinburgh, not far from here. We might pass near the street. Um, I did really feel at that time that I didn't know the shadows that I was facing, whether they were within me or something was attacking me. But I had this sense, and I remember like I asked in the first few days of like my deepest, darkest shadow work, because I faced this how I felt was all darkness on the inside with a thin layer of light on the outside. That this fear, this lack fear that I'd been denying within me and avoiding had grown and grown and grown until eventually what it was trying to do was like take over me. Um, so oh, that was smooth. We did it, John. We made it through one of the busiest parts of the city. Um, let the bus out. I'm not like the world's most amazing driver, right? But you know what? It doesn't take a lot to just be nice and to pretty much always let people out in front of you. Um, and to smile and wave. It's amazing how far these things go in making your day even more enjoyable. And others, of course, including the up to whatever 30, 40 people that are on that bus and are allowed to enjoy their day a little bit more because a vehicle let them out. Um, anyway, what was I saying? I was talking about my shadow work. Yeah, and so as I faced that darkness within me, I knew in the first few days it was important for me to like figure out, is this really part of me or something else attacking me? And my guides were really clear. They're like, John, this is you. And it was like, in many respects, of all up to that time, for all the demons that I had fought, um, for clients, uh, it was the scariest, right? Like, there's nothing scarier than the devil within us. Yeah, this is close. Easter Road is close to where I used to live. It's about 5 minutes walk down to the left here. I lived here back in 2000 to maybe 2002. Um, and then after that, we moved down to Dunbar, where we live. Um, I also had some people, I also realized that, when if you ever experience any kind of bypassing, whether it's, in the spiritual domain or spiritual aspects of your life or anything, if people are denying parts of you and parts of your experiences, then likely you need to um, kind of have them out of your life, or at least the parts of your life where you're doing your healing work. And I would do things like on my healing journey, I would still I think I took some days off meditating, and then I started, although I didn't really, it's not entirely true. Like, I'd say my daily meditation practice, I'd like I wouldn't necessarily be meditating at the same time, but I was doing healing work every single day. And through that journey, it was just so important for me to have that space. And I did set out quite early on. I set myself like some boundaries for it, and I said this is the healing period for me to work on. And I think that was 2 months. Um, so yeah, these are all important, right? These are all important aspects of both shadow work and of uh, a bypassing, spiritual bypassing. I also have reflected on, it seems to be more when I'm in like groups, whether it's been a Facebook group or like a paid for membership group or um, one of these messaging apps. Like, what I find really fascinating is that, especially in group situations, often people don't want to acknowledge or invest time in acknowledging other people's problems, like their fears, their shadows, their traumas. And by acknowledging them, I mean, as humans, we always jump to each other's aid with solutions. It's like, oh, you're sad, I'll make you happy. It's like, no, like they chose to feel sad about something because their body wants them to know, and their mind, body, and spirit like want to know more about this sadness so they can face it and see what problems like lie within it, so that you can then begin the healing. And one thing I do when I teach my higher self foundational training is there's a whole week dedicated to shadow work, and we share with each other in our membership group, and it includes me. Um, so I've done it many times this year. We share a shadow a day, and the the recommendation is that we don't give each other solutions. Instead, we're like really digging up, or just allowing and facing and verbalizing the 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 trauma, the shadow that's within us, and then we say, okay, um, don't like don't try and come up with the solution yourself. Instead, and don't try and come up with solutions for others. Instead, like, focus on seeing the problem. So we use language. Well, I'll certainly use language like, "Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for that must have been a really tough journey." So I wouldn't say, "Oh, I had the same thing," right? I had exactly the same thing. It's not helpful to people because no one experiences things exactly the same ways. Even exactly the same events can be traumatic in totally different ways to each other. Like, one person might have a teacher shout at them when they're they're very young at school and they wouldn't even remember it, right? It was not only was it not traumatic, it was like it was nothing to them. And then others can be traumatized for life and carry that as a shadow, as a like a trauma shadow for the rest of their lives. So so it's important to acknowledge this. And one thing I also learned in particular, I learned this lesson through what I describe as lost souls. So when I'm in a client session, often where uh, when this arises, lost souls arise, is when there's some sort of like major event. Sometimes it's the destruction of a planet or like a whole star system. Um, and the first thing that souls want is they want to be seen. Like they want their traumatic events to be seen. So, if you're out in space and your planet explodes and no one sees you die, it's like it seems even harder that no one was there to bear witness to this planet. Um, and for as long as, for example, planet Earth, people on planet Earth believe that, or of the people on planet Earth, they believe that they're alone in the universe, that if the planet was destroyed, is this really the only life that is now suddenly destroyed in this whole universe? And that's how it feels to these lost souls, and it's like they're like galactic space ghosts, wandering eternity, hoping that one day someone will see them. And that's just so important, right? That um, you allow yourself to see your shadows inside of you, the things that you're the most scared of. And as you see them, you know what? It it's like that's when the whole healing begins. And if I was to, guess at the amount of effort and energy it takes to put into shadow work, the biggest effort is seeing it. Like it's like 80-90% of the effort, then the energy is seeing the shadow. If you could see all your shadows right now, right in this moment, you would be amazed, right? Because you'd realize all these different things that you were doing. You'd see all these different patterns in your behaviors and your actions, your thoughts that are a result of a kind of fear avoidance tactic, right? It's like that's painful when I go there in my mind, so I'll just do these things instead. Or I'll do these things in the hope that it'll make those fears better, but I don't want to like face that fear. So yeah, my healing journey, and when I'm doing shadow work with others and teaching people how to do shadow work, it it feels like so healing just to see the shadow. And actually, that whole week in the higher self foundational training, which is solely focused on shadow work, um, what you're allowing yourself to do is to just say, "There's shadows there, and I see you," and encouraging you to send love to it, right? Not judgment, not solutions. You can't throw solutions at emotional problems. Yeah, the GPS is trying to take me right, and I know it's not right. Um, is it not right? Now I'm questioning myself. You can go right, but I think it takes you in like a funny direction. I would just go straight on here. We're going to defy the GPS to see if it gets us there faster. No fear avoidance, John. And so, yeah, I can't overemphasize enough because I am overemphasizing that if you can spend a bit of time in your day and ask yourself, like, what is the next biggest shadow I need to face that exists within me that is affecting me the most at this time? What would it be? And then when you allow yourself to like see, I often see it like as a door of fear. Like the biggest thing is just to see it there. It's like there's a door. It's a door of fear. I'm scared of it. I'm scared of doing that thing. Just like I was scared of leaving my corporate job with my nice big salary and a career that you can easily explain to people doing software to then starting my own company and starting from scratch, um, being the main wage earner and starting to build a business from scratch and just going through that roller coaster. And of course, it's not surprising that my body was scared. Um, and as I talk a little bit about some of the solutions, um, I would say that there's a there's a really interesting experience that I discovered, and I wish I'd known about this. It seems like the biggest emotional secret life hack, or should I say, the life like cultivation and growth, is that if you can figure out strong boundaries around yourself, if you can figure out, so in other words, like the things that you accept and you do not accept in your life, um, if you accept these things and say, you know what, I only accept in my life a job that I love. I only accept in my life, um, a work-life balance where and living arrangements where I get to do the joyous things I love doing. Um, like as you work through all these, your list of like defining your own boundaries, and you might say things like, I only accept clients or managers or fellow team workers that respect me. Um, if you form these boundaries, suddenly you can help really cultivate your heart, right? Your heart can feel a lot better and a lot less worried and a lot less fearful. Almost like you turn up, because in hindsight, this is what I was really doing, is I was turning up to my biggest fear of leaving my corporate job. I was turning up to that fear, that door of the fear, with an ever increasingly stronger boundaries and stronger heart. And I imagine like these like castle walls around my auric field, or this golden bubble that you hear me speak of in my meditations. And that golden bubble is a boundary for me that only energies and entities with my highest good love and compassion can see me, access me, or exist within me, or within the space. Like you're only allowing the things into your life that really serve your highest good. And therefore, when you try to face one of your own shadows, it's like it's your shadow. You're the one that has to face it. No one else can. Other people can teach you the techniques of how to face it, but it's totally up to you to face. Um, when when you focus on that, you realize, oh, actually, I can do this. I can um, I can figure out how to protect myself, protect my heart, and make sure that I don't go through some massive trauma. And and you might say to yourself, well, I'm going to walk through the door of the fear. I'm going to give it, 6 months or a year, or I'm going to save up and do 6 months or a year, and then I'm going to give it my very best shot to start my own business. Like all these things are helpful. For me, it took best part of a year for me to um, gradually come around to this idea that it's possible. And I just remember January 2023, after it's still in the kind of height of some of my anxiety about leaving my corporate job. Even though I was resigning, my anxiety was really high about it. I was really worried. Um, I found that I just needed to believe that it was possible, that there was a version of me that I could create that was capable of earning enough money, also needs to earn enough money for with just me and my family, right? And it's funny because I was so used to in companies um, doing, all the hard work and running teams and like building businesses really. Um, so even the size and scale of my fear was disproportionate, right? Like, don't get me wrong, if you said to me, John, could you build a business and maybe like have employ 70 staff? I'd be like, oh wow, that's like an even bigger challenge. And maybe maybe I wouldn't have stepped into it, into that challenge. I don't know. But yeah, I just felt like um, I felt like I'd cultivated my heart, my self-love, my self-belief, my boundaries, and what I was actually learning was this other big shadow was that I was scared of and ending up burnt out. My body was like, John, you're going to burn yourself out if you just leap out of this corporate job where you still feel lack, because your lack pattern, the way you cope with it is by working more hours. And so just because you're feeling, anxious about yourself, you will work loads and loads of hours, and then your physical health will deteriorate, and you'll feel really sad, and you'll definitely not be attracting more customers because you're feeling bad about yourself, and so on. So that shadow needed to be faced. I remember talking for weeks and weeks and weeks. I don't even know how long it was, like at least 4 months, with my guides, and they were saying, John, you're preparing your ship. You may have heard me saying this before. You're preparing your ship for this voyage. There's a storm out there, and you need to be prepared. I didn't really realize that the ship was really my body, and the captain, my heart, and I needed to prepare myself to protect my ship, to protect my captain. I don't know. I may regret some of these analogies. Um, so yeah, it was just a huge thing to face, um, and I'm so glad I did. Like, if I hadn't have faced those traumas, um, both about my deepest, darkest shadow work, and then the remaining challenges that I had, excuse me, about burning myself out as a way of coping with lack of self worth, or lack of um, boundaries. As soon as I started to face that, things just got they got a lot easier. Um, so yeah, I'm so glad I went through those really nasty shadows. Um, if I hadn't, you wouldn't be talking to this version of John, and you wouldn't be so happy about everything. Um, he would be struggling a lot. Things are hard enough, right? Like, we have a lot going on in our lives, a lot of unexpected stuff. Oh, that is hopeless. This big bush. Um, I'm gonna find a better space. I think I might just nip down between these cars here. Oh, I never checked to see. I don't think they have any parking restrictions here. Um, this isn't big enough for these guys to get in and out of the cars. So, yeah, I'm just so glad I went through all that hard work, the inner work, because that's what was needed for me um, to survive, to become this version of me where I could step into a new career, a new business, and do so without burning myself out, um, or burning myself out as fast as I would if I hadn't done all that inner work. Maybe that's more accurate. Okay, we are reversing into a big space, but it's plenty space here. I don't really care if I stick out because the road's blocked. Okay, sure, this is fascinating to watch. Okay, so yeah, we covered um, some bypassing and some shadow work, and yeah, I'd love to also talk more about the aspects of like trying to identify a spiritual mentor, a meditation coach or teacher, or just someone that you want to follow in on social media, like the sorts of things to look out for and the sorts of red flags. Some of the things that you've heard are red flags, right? When someone denies, I've had people deny my very goal, like, hey, I want to do this thing. I want to help like balance darkness and light, and I want to help people on their awakening journeys. Like, if the biggest red flags, if someone doesn't align with those and they're coaching you, you're just like, that's no help. It's not gonna, it's not gonna be a great working relationship. And so I think I would encourage, if you're watching this and you do this kind of work, any kind of coaching or leading or counseling or whatever you do for people, um, to be transparent and to do it early on, because the more you do that early on and up front, the more it allows people to see you for what it is you're trying to do, and then decide themselves whether they align with it, right? Like, we all get to choose, our unique choices. Some people will be in it for money. Some people will be in it for fame. Some people will be in it for, bigger, more ethical challenges. Not, I don't mean to be judgy, not more ethical than money or not, just more ethically focused. Um, so yeah, I think that's me today. So I am going to wait here for my wife, and and then we will be heading home for hopefully a fairly relaxing afternoon plus some DIY. Thank you for watching. If you have any requests for topics for me to share while I'm driving with you, let me know. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Sending love.